So it looks like we're a couple of minutes past the top of the hour now. So rather than wait, whoever joins us late can sort of catch up. We will be recording this session just for your information so you can share it with colleagues. Um, Hi there, I'm Pete Graychuk. I am the VP Sales with North 49. I'm joined by my colleague Etienne Grobler, who will be doing the bulk of the presentation in the live product to show you what it's all about. Just for your information, if you want to ask any questions, type them into the Q&A panel. That way we get a recording of them as well through the session, and we can follow up with them afterwards if we don't get time to get to your questions during the session. And we will make the recording available to you after the session as well, again, so you can refresh your memory or share it with colleagues. So with that, let's get things rolling here. So the last little while has been fairly challenging for a lot of companies, and COVID-19 has created a very interesting situation for most of us, and we've come to kind of realize that things aren't going back to the way they were prior to the pandemic starting. And one of the biggest reasons is that people have become accustomed to doing business in a specific way, and that's proving to be far more convenient for them to do that. And there's been a number of industry pundits out there who have been sort of echoing these sentiments. It's not just our feeling, but folks in the industry are saying the same. This gentleman from BDC, which is Business Development Canada, basically shares these sentiments. He's basically saying that things probably will not go back to the way they were before. So it really is important that businesses adapt and transform how they are interacting with their customers in order to provide them with better service. Now, even before the pandemic started, these were the kind of numbers that we were looking at for business to business, meaning wholesalers and manufacturers and those types of folks interacting with their customers. The buyers out there were doing a lot of their research online already, and they were preferring to make most of their purchases online once they figured out what they wanted to buy. In fact, more than half of their purchases are going to be done online. And this was pre-pandemic. After the pandemic hit, we started to see some big increases in how much people were buying online. And if you look at the medium size, about, almost three-quarters, or more than three-quarters, actually almost 90% of medium-sized businesses want to buy from an online platform. And many of them actually changed their suppliers because the ones that they were working with did not provide that capability. So it's pretty crucial that we pay attention to this and make sure that we're providing our customers with the way that they want to deal with us. And that doesn't mean you abandon your traditional methods, but people want options, and increasingly those options are online. And the convenience that it's just presenting to people just makes it very compelling for them. And if you want to continue to be their supplier of choice, it becomes a compelling argument for you as well. So historically, maybe folks thought that this was just for the bigger players, but it's not anymore. It's really within reach of just about every business that's out there. It's very affordable, and it's not a major undertaking to get a online presence going. And there's a bunch of different ways that this can happen, and a bunch of different things that you need to consider when you're looking at your, I guess, transition to providing online services to your customers. You want to integrate to your back office accounting system. I think that's something that most people didn't even think about in the early days of e-commerce. They just wanted to get a site up there, and then they figured out later that, boy, wouldn't this be nice if it was integrated and actually shared information back and forth with my accounting system, so that my product information could go up and my orders could come down automatically and not have me to manually, maintain those two disparate data sources. And then you want to integrate to things like payment processors or different common carriers out there. And there's a lot of other online services that really make the buying experience online more complete for your customers, and a very good experience as well. So that's something you want to make sure that you do. Retail is very typically a strong area for online, but what works in retail doesn't necessarily work for wholesale or for business to business. There's a whole bunch of different nuances in a business to business environment that really don't even apply to the retail space. For instance, people have credit. So you may have payment terms that you want to extend onto your web presence for your customers, and having the appropriate platform will allow that. Also, you can have customer-specific pricing set up. Now, specifically inside of Sage 300, there are a bunch of different pricing models that you can provide to your customers. And the proper online platform should support that. So when your customer goes online to buy something, they should see their pricing with their credit terms, and actually even the products that they're allowed to buy should be the only ones that they see. And so you need to do your homework. You need to figure out what's available out there, what the different options are, and make sure you make the right choice. So North 49 has been doing this for quite some time. We've been a Sage development partner for 30 plus years, or that is to say the principals in the company have been doing this for 30 plus years. Many of the products that we wrote over the years, Sage bought them. So if you're on a version of 2014 or newer, there is product in there, or there are components in there that North 49 wrote, and Sage actually had us write them directly into the source code. So what that means is that we have access to the Sage 300 source code. So when we talk about a deeply integrated product or e-commerce platform to Sage 300, we know what we're talking about. We know what makes Sage 300 tick inside under the sheet, so to speak. So we have a deep knowledge of that source code. And we guarantee that our products are going to be compatible with the next version of Sage 300, and 99% of the time that's before it ever hits the street, because we are on the beta program. So we get advanced access to all of these products before they hit the street. And even by the way that we communicate, we are largely unaffected by a Sage upgrade, but we still test it, we make sure it works, and it's compatible very early on and before a customer ever sees that new release. There are three primary components in the e-commerce suite that we provide. They start with the customer portal, which can be a standalone component, and we'll talk about that and we'll show you what it's all about. There's a mobile sales portal, which really, a bit of a misname, it's really just your internal staff's access to that portal or website, I guess, so they can process transactions on behalf of a customer. And then, of course, there's a full e-commerce platform we call Webtelligence. All of these are deeply integrated into Sage 300 so that you should never have to rekey any bit of information more than once. And the two systems should share them automatically without you having to interfere in any way, unless you choose to do so. That's always an option for you. And so we're going to, look at all of these three different components for you in a bit more detail. So that's really all I wanted to introduce you to in these concepts. I want to turn it over to my colleague Etienne now, who's going to actually show you the live product. And if you have questions, again, please type them into the Q&A panel. I will monitor that while Etienne's speaking. And yeah, I'll just let him go from there. Etienne?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Pete. Let me start by sharing my monitor here. And you should see my a blank Windows monitor at the moment. So thank you very much. The demo today, we're going to deal with both the portal and the Webtelligence product. Probably the quickest way to kind of kick this off is by speaking about Click to Pay. Click to Pay is your ability to embed a link on a document or an invoice or a PDF or an email, which you send out to the customer, and the customer has the ability to click that document, and they will be routed or directed to a form, an online form where they can make a payment, and that payment gets processed directly into the Sage 300 system. This is an integrated or integral part of the portal. It's also, bear in mind that the portal and all its functionality has probably for the last 8 or 9 years been a part of a larger Webtelligence system. So everything I show in the portal will be assumed to be available if required within Webtelligence. It has been there for a very long time. And so all of this functionality flows through all of our product ranges. Well, let's start off with Click to Pay. Click to Pay, as I said, is your ability to embed a link on a document and send that out to the customer and ask the customer to make payment. I've just mocked up one here in a Word document. It'll look exactly the same wherever you put that. Hello, Ronald Black, you owe us money, invoice 61, there's the amount you owe us. Please click here to go ahead and pay. When the customer clicks that, they will be directed to a web page of your portal, which will then allow them to pay that document online. Now, this is sample company ink, but this, of course, will be your logo, your data on here, etc. as the customer gets here, the information on his record is verified. So is this customer 1200? Does he have an invoice number 61? And because we interact directly with Sage 300 at this point, the document amount is looked up, the invoice number, etc. This data is looked up at the time that the user hits this page. Based on what your payment portal or your credit card processor at least is going to allow, you may choose to open up different payment options, or credit card, ACH, PayPal, whatever you have activated on the system is going to allow him here to choose how he wants to go ahead and pay this document. I also have open on my screen here the Sage 300 sample data, SAM Inc., which is backing up this particular portal that we're looking at here. So if we go and have a look at that, open up the receipt batch, you'll see that the receipt batch here is empty. Let's go back to our payment here, and let's go make this payment. The customer clicks through here. We're going to ask him to put in a credit card and an expiry date to CVV and go ahead and pay that document. When the customer does that, the payment's then processed through your payment portal, and you'll see that we directed the customer away from the website to the payment portal to take the entry. That'll be true from whatever payment portal that you do use. It is our intention to open this up to as many processors as makes sense. At the moment, I'm working on Paya. But we do have multiple other processors which we'll integrate to. So the payment has now been taken. The customer will get an email confirmation of this. The customer at this point can go ahead and print himself a copy of this. He can PDF a copy, of course, whatever he wants to do at this point. And he now has a copy of that document. So if we then go back into Sage 300, since we're interacting live with Sage 300, and we open up this receipt batch, here is our a document process that was invoice number 61 for the amount of $2,335. So here is that entry entered directly. So there's no dual entry required here. The documentation or the transactions are flowing directly between the portal and the internal system, and there is nothing else that has to be done. The merchant is going to get notification of this payment as well. So as soon as that payment is made, the merchant is going to be aware that it has been paid. And probably a good point to kind of pause at this point and just speak about notifications and integrations, etc. One of the methods of communicating between the portal and you as a merchant is either via email. So you will get email notifications of whatever happens on the portal, but you will also get notifications either via Microsoft Teams or Slack. Slack does have a free version, and so it is an instant notification. I have my Microsoft Teams open, so I'm just going to slide that over onto the screen here. And here is that payment which you've just made by Ronald Black. So the portal has now made a payment to Ronald Black. Here we can see it. We have the option to show details of the invoices against which this was applied. If you want to do it, here is one of those options at the top here, or not, or just a simple notification. And then, of course, based on who you have on these teams, these users will now be able to know that there's been a payment made instantly. Okay, let's move on to the portal as a whole. The portal on the front login page, this will be your company logo, your company welcome message, your company details, etc. So you have the ability to very easily maintain this. You'll see, for example, that we've left a significant room up here for a logo, which means that it'll be absolutely possible for you to, put out a holiday message, sample company Inc., your holiday store of choice, whatever it might be. Create a logo, and it's very easy to upload that. I will get to that in just a little while. Registration either happens by the user requesting access to the portal or by self-registration. We've set this up as a self-register portal here. So we will ask you for a username, your customer number, a verification question, whatever that might be, and you have the option, what is the zip code on your AR account, what was the last invoice issued, what was the last payment amount made, whatever would be a secure enough question to ask you to verify this user as belonging to that account number. Name, email address, phone number. We do enforce somewhat of a strict password code here. So we have told the system that we need at least 6 or more characters. We need at least 1 digit, and we need at least 1 alphanumeric, non-alphanumeric character, an exclamation mark, a hashtag, or whatever that might be. When the customer fills in this documentation or this registration request, you do set up the portal to then say, if you've answered the question correctly, you have immediate access, or it will notify you as the merchant that there has been a successful application, and it'll ask you to go in and approve that. When a new user gets approved, the user will get notified with his registration confirmation. The merchant gets notified, and optionally, you have the ability to notify the AR account that a new user has registered on their account, so that they can come back to you and say, hang on, that was not one of us, please block that user. Let's go ahead and log in. Ronald Black's logging into his account. When he logs in, one of the first potential reactions would be that Ronald Black would get a message from you welcoming him onto the portal, or in future communications, you have the ability on the comments section of the AR account in accounts receivable to post a message, and Ronald Black will see that message pop up when he logs in. When he acknowledges that message, it will stop popping up, but it will also notify you internally by changing the category within the comment to let you know that Ronald Black has seen that message. We also have what we call a broadcast message, which means it will be broadcast out to every user logging in, and that could be notifications, new COVID guidelines, store hours, whatever you want to transmit across the entire base will be transmitted. Ronald Black is now logged in. Let's go through the functions very briefly. If there are any questions that Pete said, please type them into the Q&A, and Peter can kind of stop me at some point and we can just review them very briefly. Customer account activity gives the customer a snapshot. Here's your account balance, open invoices, etc., your account name, the total sales transactions for 3 years. Bear in mind this is sample data, so my data looks a little odd. This data is read real-time from the system. There's no need for the system to synchronize. There's no daily procedure to run. It is an absolutely maintenance-free portal. We read the data direct. So when the client logs in, even on his first login, he's going to see this data for the past 3 years. Let's go ahead. The menu up here allows me to navigate across the system. Also worth noting is we are multilingual. We currently have English and French. We are working on any other translation which might be required, and we'll be happy to speak to anybody that will come up and say, hey, I'm interested in a Spanish version. Let's work together and get that sorted out. So the menu can be accessed from here, and the menu can also be accessed from the top here, so we can navigate between the screens without going back to the home page. Let's just have a look at transactions. Usual selection here, how many transactions do you want to a page? Just a side note at this point, literally every screen in the system, the entire system was developed to work well across mobile devices. So no matter which device you are looking at the portal at, it's going to work well. So let's drag this down to, say, a mobile size, and you'll see that the data is now dropped in underneath each other. So we retain the readability of the system. We just make the best use of the space, or the real estate, as we call it, available to us. Literally everything is still going to be available. Our menu has now become a slide out menu here. So you'll see that we now have the kind of hamburger thing. If we go back to account activity, the screen we just looked at earlier, it is still absolutely readable. So the entire system is going to operate very well across any device that the user wants to use to have a look at it. Go back to view transactions. And we saw there that the user can check the number of items per page. He can also choose all or open only. Open only is going to allow the user to see only those transactions with a current balance. All, of course, is going to show him all transactions. Remember invoice number 61, which we paid earlier in QuickPay or Click to Pay, is already showing here as being paid. The system will look not only at the account transactions which have been posted, it'll also look at the unposted transactions. So if the user tries to pay this account again, we are going to refuse that payment. So let's just click back here and do that very quickly. The user wants to pay this again, so it's going to click on that document again. The system is going to verify that document as he lands here, and we're going to tell him that this invoice is no longer available for payment. If he looks at his portal, this document shows here as being paid, even though the batch has not been posted in accounts receivable. At this point, the user can then drill down into a particular document if he wants to. We will render him a copy of that document. He can go ahead and print a copy of this document for himself. He can save it as a PDF and do whatever he wants to do with this document. So we've allowed the user here access to his documentation, and he can do with these documents, self-serve with these documents as much as he likes to. When we look at a payment, we will also show him against which documents that payment has been allocated. He can also narrow down the documents he wants to look at. This list is the full list of document types available in Sage 300. In the setup, the merchant, you can limit this. So you may choose to show only invoices and credit notes or invoices and receipts, and that is what the user is going to be able to see when he logs into this page. So you do not necessarily have to show him the full spectrum of what you want to show him. Here, for example, we have a payment that was partially allocated. When the user goes in and has a look at that, of course, he's going to be able to see that. This is also very handy if your salespeople are out on the road and they're sitting with the phone and they want to discuss something with the customer. They can call up the same view, have a look at it, and chat to the customer about that. Let's go on to Pay Account Online. Before we do that, let's just have a quick look at managing credit cards. One of the options that is available is your ability to allow your customer to store a credit card online so that they do not have to enter the detail every time that they access that account. Just to be clear, we're not actually storing the credit card information. That's done by the vault. What we are storing is what's called a token. So just sufficient information for us to be able to show on screen, and you can see that we have the last 4 digits. Of course, we know by the card number what type it is, the name on the card, the expiry date, and that's all we store. And so we are staying on the right side of PCI compliance. The vault actually has this credit card, not us. And then if you're using an integrated solution, Paya, for example, that's integrated into Sage 300, we have the ability to store the card inside Sage 300. So we're looking at Ronald Black here. We see 2 cards stored here. We did tell the system to store that directly in Sage 300. So if we flip back to Sage 300 here and we look at customers, we'll be able to see those 2 cards also on Ronald Black here. So here are the 2 cards stored on Ronald Black, and you can see on the web here that, or on the portal, that one of them has expired, and of course the user won't be able to use that. The user does have the ability to quote unquote delete a card. We don't actually ever delete a card. There may be partially processed transactions against that card in your internal system. So what we would do is simply mark it as inactive, and the user will no longer be able to see it on his list. So any inactive card inside the system is not going to be visible to the customer when they come here. So the customer is storing these cards directly in Sage 300. Any cards you maintain in there is going to be visible here. But you also have the ability to store the cards on the portal itself, in which case they're not going to show up in Sage. And that, of course, also allows this functionality if you have a non-integrated solution. So there is no card storage within Sage, and you still want the user to be able to recall and use a card. Go have a look at Pay Account. Now, remember, we did pay invoice number 61, so I'm not expecting that to show up in the list of cards of transactions to be paid. Again, this is sample data, so I have a silly long list here. Typically, of course, that's not going to be true. The guy may choose to pay his account as whole and just click that button. Let's go ahead and pay these transactions here. When the user looks at the screen, he has the ability to open up a transaction and just very briefly have a look at what's in that document. So he's just aware of what he's paying. He can take a quick look and just verify, yes, that's what I want to do. Go ahead and pay these invoices. Make the payment, and then we're going to stop him here. If you have various options available, if you do not, we'll let him just go straight through and pay these. But he does have stored accounts. He's flagged one as a default card that he wants to use. But he may also add a new card at this point, or just use a card and not save it, which means it's going to be a one-use card, and we're not going to know the details of that card after the payment. Or, of course, you can do a check and ACH payment. We do keep the batches in Sage separate so that you can reconcile, ACH payments and different card information, etc. Because the user has now selected a stored card at this point, we don't need to ask him for the card information as we did with Click to Pay. And so there's no stopover, if you will, on the transaction indicating that or asking him for the card information. We know what that is, so we could process this directly. Again, this is going to allow him to print a copy of this, and everybody along the line is now being notified that there has been a payment made. For example, here is the email that I've just received that the customer has paid these documents. So the integration, the interaction, the feedback to the user is immediate. Of course, if I go back and look at my Slack, I will be able to see the same thing. Here is that transaction that was just made on my Microsoft Teams. And again, we have the option to either show the detail here or not. Likewise, the user is going to get an email saying that he has paid this. He's going to get a receipt posted to him. Okay, that is account payment. Let's move on to ordering. If you do expose ordering on your portal, first of all, of course, very simply, the user can go and have a look at the documents. Again, bear in mind that we are reading this documentation directly out of the Sage 300 system. There is no synchronization. We do not have any of this information on our servers. It means a few things. One, of course, it's real time. The user is seeing here what you are seeing inside of Sage 300. He's seeing the same status. It is being done real time. Number two, of course, this data is not sitting on our servers, which means that it cannot be hacked or stolen, so it is absolutely secure. When viewing transactions, just very quickly, the user again can just kind of do a brief click open of any particular document. The user can also drill down into that document and have a detailed look at what that copy looked like. He can print a copy and go ahead and do whatever he wants to do with that copy here. The user again has the option to select number of documents per page, show all or open only. Open only, of course, is only going to show him orders that have not shipped yet. Document type, active, future, standing, or quotes. He can view this information by order, or he can view it by items. So If it selects to view by items, of course, it's just getting a back order report here of items that is on back order with you. Going back to orders, we do show different types, and you have the ability to kind of limit that. We have implemented the ability for a user to request a quote from you. So when they post an order or do a request for quote, we will post it as a quote into your system. You can control this in the portal admin side. And then we've put in a mechanism where the order can go through an approval process and be then rendered back to the user. So the process would be the user asks for pricing, you check his request internally, you approve that quote, and when the quote is approved, you turn the approval on. When a quote has been approved, it will show up here as the quote is ready or it's been approved, and the user can then go ahead and turn this quote directly into an order real time. So you're leaving that action up to the user. You could, of course, just use it as a simple quoting mechanism. So the user calls you up, gives you a list of things and say, you know, give me a quote, and he can then go ahead and have a look at that quote. If a document has been processed or invoiced, he can have a look at that. So the user can come through, click on an order, get the invoice number. He can click through on that invoice, of course, do whatever he wants to do with this invoice. And go back to the ordering screen. So when an order has been invoiced, he'll see that. If there's been multiple invoices on a particular order, they will list down here. There is a tracking number, so if you do want to implement the ability for him to click through and track that invoice as it's being delivered, contact us and we can have that discussion with you. Okay. That is ordering. A last note here, just typically the status. We pick that up from the status of the document inside of Sage 300. We do realize that there are occasions where the status of an order gets a little bit more complex or more detailed, if you will, than simply what is reported by Sage itself, because Sage only knows it's been received, it's on hold, it's not on hold, it's been partially invoiced or it's been fully invoiced. That's really the status which Sage in its internal system deals with. So here we have an order that's currently on hold. When you process an order from the portal, you have the ability to tell the system to either put it on hold or not, and we'll deal with that in just a second. If, however, your organization has a more complex method or requirement of reporting of the status of a document, you may choose to put that status into an optional field. So we do have the ability and the availability for you to use an optional field, and then literally we will just report on the contents of that optional field. So that could be order received, order being reviewed, order gone off to manufacturing, order in manufacturing, order getting ready to be shipped, and so on. So you could then widely expand on what you want to report back to the customer regarding the order status here. Finally, let's go on to order entry processing. A couple of side notes here, or a few side notes here. This is going to interact directly with your Sage 300. When we post a document here, it's going to post directly into Sage 300. When a customer looks at this, we do have the ability, or you have the option, to narrow down what he sees to only those items on his price list or on a particular price list. So if you have 5,000 items in inventory, but for now you want to sell a limited number of 500 on the web, you can go ahead and do that by simply allocating a particular price list to this functionality. And we will sell only what's on that price list, and we'll sell it only at the price which is on that price list. That also means that you can vastly refine that. So you could almost, by customer, if you want to maintain that in your Sage 300, tell the system what a particular customer may or may not buy. So let's have a look at the screen again. Just, a reminder that this will work very well even on a mobile phone here. So The intent here is that somebody can do this while they're kind of on the run wherever they are. Ship to locations, this will be the ship to locations attached to this customer. So he has access to selecting one of the ship to locations. He can also select a new location and enter the detail. Remember, this is going to post through to order entry. So order entry is going to have this as the ship to location for this particular order. You can put in an order here. So let's go demo. What's today's date? 3/25/2021. That's my PO number, just so we can track this once it's been posted. The user can select a delivery date here. So if he wants to call up a date, say I want that delivered on the 31st, he may choose a ship via code. So if you want to open this up, this is an option that you may or may not show, and the user can can select, FedEx or I'll pick up or store pickup or curbside pickup, whatever you want to allow him to select here. We can go ahead and do that, and then say please ship to Peter at North 49 ASAP. And that's the header information. If the user wants to now, he can just kind of slide that out of the way a little bit, just so that the screen becomes less cluttered. We did that very specifically for the mobile view so that we don't take up a whole bunch of screen real estate at the top. Let's look at how the procedure of ordering can work here. So we've got three basic means that you can control what you want to do. First of all, you can turn off the show item details altogether. So if the user then goes ahead and presses a call for, say, a calculator, let's go ahead and order this N1 calculator here. We're not going to show him any detail. We're going to simply drop straight in and show him that information. This data was now read from Sage 300. It is the appropriate price. If you allow price overrides, either only for salespeople or for end users, he will have access to that. If there are different units of measure and you allow him to choose, he'll have access to that. In this system, that's all turned off. So he can simply go ahead and click, order the quantity he wants to order here, and then go ahead and move on. The screen at this point is possible to be keyboard driven entirely, so there's no need for him to have a mouse. That, of course, is necessary when he's on a mobile device as well. Let's go one level higher in showing detail. So I'm going to just turn that on my screen here. It is an option which you do have the ability to control within the setup. So you can choose whether this is even possible or not. And let's order that same item in one calculator. And what's going to happen now is we will read the 4 additional item information lines in addition to the other information. So we're going to show him a little bit more information if you want to expose this to the customer. So these are the 4 additional item information lines in inventory control. Again, the pricing, etc., was selected based on who I am and what detail and information I have available to me. Just a note on selecting the item. The system will go select an item based on the, or extracted from a match on the string that's been typed in here on the SKU number, on the item description, on any of the 4 item additional information lines. And if you have customer item numbers activated, even the customer item numbers. So the customer can type in his own item number here, and we will return the item from your inventory directly here. Let's have a look at the 3rd level of detail. We can show the customer. Let's order a calculator where we actually have an image, and that's going to extract the image and show it on the screen for the user. It is possible to have multiple images. So this now kind of brings us a little bit closer to an online e-commerce system. We don't present this as that, but this does give us the flexibility to have more than simply, I want item A1700. This is going to give the user the ability to order and get more information and images of a particular product. Okay, let's go ahead and add this to our order. And let's go ahead and post this order. So I have 10, 1, and 5 of these 3 items posted. Unfortunately, they're all the same, or the top 2 are the same item. Let's go ahead and place this order. When the user does this, we are writing this order directly into Sage 300. There is no interim procedure. This order has been written into the system. Usual thing, the customer can have a look at this order. They can print themselves a copy of this order, etc. Here is this order as it's going to appear within Sage 300. My demo is note is up there. The comment that I entered is in here. And we can now go back and look at our view orders, and order number 71 has to be the last order there. Remember, we wrote this order directly into the system. We're reading it directly out of the system, so it's going to be available for us. So let's go over to Sage 300. Just go through order entry. And let's take a look at the last order that's available here for us to read. Order number 72, demo. If we look at the totals, there is the note that we posted on it. And we are able to identify this order. So we do put into the reference field entered on the portal by Ronald Black. That was the user that did that. And of course, we flagged it as entered by Electronic Commerce. So in theory, in the morning, if you told the system to post all orders on hold, as we did here, a user can simply come in, do a search, and say, show me all orders where the source equals Electronic Commerce, and he's going to get a list of all the orders that was posted through the system. Okay. I think that kind of wraps up my demo of the portal. There is a contact us form. Ronald Black has the ability to look at their account and change their passwords, etc. And I'm just going to stop at this point with the portal and ask Pete if there are any questions that I can deal with at this point.
Sorry, couldn't get my mute button turned off. Yeah, nothing that hasn't been already addressed yet, and so you can go ahead and maybe pop into Webtelligence now and show them what.
Awesome. Thank you, Pete. Okay, let's move over to Webtelligence. Webtelligence is a full e-commerce system, and we do deal within Webtelligence with business to consumer, business to business, business to everyone. And as Pete says, we do have the salesperson access or portal, which could either be part of anything else or could be an entirely standalone issue. So we do have portals, or at least e-commerce systems, Webtelligence systems, which is entirely inward facing. There is no external facing, and that would be salespeople out on the road. It will be delivery truck drivers dropping data, dropping shipments at clients' doors, etc. So it could be entirely inward facing. It could be entirely outward facing. It could be business to business, business to consumer, or all of the above. And so let me start by kind of going through the process. If you do sign up and take up a Webtelligence project, your ability to design that system is going to be entirely up to you. You may choose to involve your own designers, or you could make use of our internal graphic design. If you choose to use our graphic design, we do open up a project. It starts off in this product called InVision. And InVision allows us to design and at the same time communicate with you as the merchant about what that portal should look like. We do believe that portals should have different flavors. Very clearly, if you're the Caterpillar heavy equipment manufacturer, your portal or your e-commerce system is going to look nothing like the Victoria's Secret e-commerce system. This e-commerce system has to be geared towards your customers, your products, your workflow, and your company. It has to be an extension and a reflection of what your company looks like. And this allows us to design according to that. So what your system looks like is going to be the way in which you design it together with the designers that you choose to do that. Within our design environment, then we open up a project for each one, and within that project we then expand what a particular product would look like. I'm just going to choose a few that I've brought up already just to kind of give you an idea. So in the design phase, for example, Swagman racks, and Swagman I will show you a little later, went through the process, and literally every screen of Swagman racks is designed for them. It will start off at the landing page. So they wanted a landing page that clearly reflects an outdoor life, popular categories here, new models coming up here, etc. So that's what the landing page would look like. A selection of the country that you're in. We do have the ability to create what we call profiles. A profile will skin the site based on who is logging in. In its most basic form, it will be, you know, US or Canada. It could be language. It could be a particular login for a particular customer. It could be the differentiator between a B2C customer site or a B2B business site, etc. And so every screen here is designed for them as they move through. This is, Swagman is a B2E, so they do business to business and business to consumer, and I'll show you that in just a little while. But we also have entirely inward-facing sites like Beeline. So Beeline would be their tire supplier. They log in from all over North America, and they needed a portal where they could deal with business no matter where they are. And so they log in, and then we've got a retrieve password here. When they land, they get almost a portal kind of view here. But of course, it's a lot more detailed in how they process their orders, etc. So it is an entirely inward-facing website. Finally, just on design, because I'm going to hop over to that, let me show you what Vicenza looks like. Vicenza is a kind of an interesting site. They are a business-to-consumer site, so they are retail. A very high quality cabinetry hardware, you know, doorknobs, etc. They wanted a website which kind of reflected that, so they have the ability to choose a product by product family. They have the ability to choose a product by product category. You will see that our design is semi-interactive here. It's not a website, but the user can see what will happen if they click a particular button. They have our highlighted products, shopping by category here in kind of graphic form rather than the drop down to top, our Pinterest, newsletter, Facebook, etc. So this is what their design looked like. Let's hop over onto the live site. Here is Vicenza Designs, vicenzadesigns.com. So this is what it looked like once the site got live. They have the scrolling top bar here, product families of their selection, product categories over here that they can select from, highlighted products, shop by category, etc. And so let's go ahead, you know, Pinterest, our newsletter, subscribe to our newsletter, Facebook, etc. All the legalities at the bottom. Let's go have a brief look at some of the functionality. So they will find a product either by going to a product family, meaning a product design. So they can look at a design of a product range, or they can simply say, you know, I want to find a bath accessory and go there. And then we're showing them all bath accessories across all designs. So accessing detail inside of the website has to be designed where your user will be able to find that product as quickly and efficiently as they can. Let's go product families, Archimedes here. Archimedes here is the entire designed range of Archimedes products then. They do have what we call a filter. So there is, of course, a search option here that they can search for a particular product, but we also have filters. A filter will take a larger subgroup of items, narrow them down. So, you know, show us only toilet paper holders, toilet bars, and towel bars and towel rings, and filter that down for us, and then we end up with those within the Archimedes family. Let's drill down into a particular product. because they then go ahead and have product grouping here. So they, on this page, we can then say, you know, we want a 18-inch bar and we want it finished in antique brass. The picture is going to show us what we want. We can go ahead and order it. Now, you would understand, of course, that within Sage, these are permutations of internal products. So an 18-inch antique brass is an item number in Sage, as is each one of these other ones. So this is what we call a product grouping, puts a whole bunch of products together on a page. We have as many images here as you choose to have. As efficient description here is what is necessary. We call this the extended description of the particular product. We have product specifications here. We have care and maintenance here. They have a download of the catalog and installation instructions. They also have, you know, more for from Archimedes. So these would be the related products which you can maintain within your local system. It's going to show the user you may also want to buy these products. You can see that these are reasonably expensive towel bars, and I do not have any of them in my house. Let's move on from our Vicenza, which is a fairly colorful graphic site, to a slightly more simple, specifically designed site for a particular purpose, and that's called Tip Top Parts. Tip Top Parts runs two individual websites, one for the US, one for Canada, because they wanted the whole skin different. They're also different Sage 300 data sets within the Sage 300. So, of course, the orders need to go to different places rather than just to one. Let's log into the Canadian one. Very briefly, in design, these guys said that 90% of their orders comes from a guy sitting in a roof working on an HVAC system, and he pulls out his phone and he wants to order something. So they kind of shied away as much as possible from too much graphics, too much moving parts here. They really wanted to keep it simple. They probably, you know, in my very humble opinion, oversimplified some of it. But this is what their design wanted, and this is how it came out. Just to drill into a particular product, I'm going to select extractors, shampoos, and polishers here. And they then come up with a very kind of simple view. Again, remember, they wanted this to be very easily readable from a cell phone. Somebody sitting outside a building and they very quickly need to order a part or a piece. And this is what it looks. This is very strictly business to business, and without logging in, I have no ability to view prices. I have no ability to view inventory. But they wanted the information available for whoever to come and look even before logging in. So if we look at a particular product here, they've got the English and French detail of this product or description. If we drill into this product, they have the product image or multiple images, how many ever they wanted to show on this. Very simple English, French. No purchasing option here because we're not logged in. A huge amount of additional information just to make the point that there's no limitation to what you can do. Related products, in this case, related products are spare parts for this particular machine. They also have, customers also bought, so they have the ability, and this is system generated. Whoever bought that, we go look at the orders and we'll show you related products. They have documentation added here down to, you know, parts list, for example. This exploded diagram of the parts list of that particular machine. They have installation videos and Carpet Express cleaning instructions, etc. The amount of information we can show you is vast. Let me log in. And I'm going to log us into a sample customer, just so that you know that I am not showing you sensitive data here. This is a customer which we have the ability to look at. They've got the e-flyer, or they've put a little bit more colorful logo on there, their printable monthly flyer, etc. This is the portal. It will look a little bit familiar to you. They have a bit more information here, so they can look at purchase history of a particular product. They also have the ability to reorder from older invoices. And so what we will allow him to do here is go back, have a look at previous invoices and reorder data from that. This data is being read real time out of the customer system. So hopefully, their internet connection is robust enough for us to do that. But the user can now go and open up and just reorder any of the things that were on previous orders. So we're really just making it easy for him to reorder, to find whatever he wants to find in a business-to-business environment. They also have a dealer favorites. This is their wish list, and edit the password, etc. Let me go back. Before I do that, one more thing which they have on here is that quick order function. So here is that kind of order tablet where they can just very quickly go put in, I don't know, shampoo. The difference here between the system as a e-commerce system versus, pardon me, the portal is that the moment he stops typing for a second or more, we will automatically bring up a return list of qualified items. So as he keeps on typing here, this list is going to refine down to what he's looking for. He can go down and select it, the quantity he wants on here, etc. I know that previously they showed the quantity available. They decided to remove that because they found that competitors were looking at the inventory. And then you could also have something here that's kind of a green, yellow, red light. Green means it's available for the quantity that you want to enter here. Yellow means that there may be a delay in supply. Red means it's not available at all. And they can go ahead and enter that to the cart. So here's the ability for a B2B site to very quickly enter orders and end up at what you want to see. Let's go back. Yes, sir.
Can I just add one point for clarification? When we were talking about the customer portal, and Etienne mentioned that we have no data at all on the customer portal, we read it live from Sage. Whereas in the case of an e-commerce suite or a web store, we do actually replicate this data into our servers. So that's why this kind of search capability that he was showing you here is a little bit different here, because we have that data readily available on our servers to pop up immediately. So it's a little different, but not hugely. Just wanted to make that clarification.
Thank you, Pete. If we go back now and look at those products again that we had a peek at earlier, you'll see that there is now substantially more information available. So I am now logged in. So it is showing me my price. So this will be from the price list, contract pricing, special pricing, sale pricing. However you've set this up within Sage 300, that is going to be what the user is going to see here. I can order directly from this. It doesn't make sense, of course, on an extractor, but when I'm looking at consumables, rags, cleaning materials, etc., having a list view is going to be hugely useful. And I can add to cart to add this to my favorites. Likewise, when I now drill into that same product, we have the purchase information available for us here. So a B2B site, in the way in which it functions, is slightly different. I do want to remind you again that this is on a single code base. So what we saw in Vicenza being different from what we see on TipTop does not mean that they're running on different code. It means that we've simply exposed different functionality for this particular site. We run only one code base. We are a SaaS solution. We host the websites. Which means that we keep up to date with movements in Sage, integrations to, for example, Avalara's tax system, etc. A lot of benefits of having a single code base in terms of maintaining the site, maintaining compatibility. There's never an upgrade issue. There's never the need to go back to your website and have to redo it because Sage has done an upgrade. The functionality available to one customer is available to all customers. Every piece of functionality on the system is available. So what we're looking at here is simply a different presentation to the customer based on the requirements of that particular website. We had a look at Swagman earlier. As I said, Swagman wanted to have a very clear kind of outdoor lifey thing. Swagman sells bicycle racks, rooftop carriers, etc. And so that's what they wanted to reflect on the website. Buying by category, new models. Remember, we had a look at this. Subscribe for our new product launches website, etc. If we drill down into a particular product range, Here we are. We can filter down a little bit more here. So towing racks, bike racks, etc. Again, this works on across all platforms, no matter where we are. And if we draw into a particular product, we will then be able to see more detail of that product. So different images of that product, description, video, technical specification, parts of that product in list form, so very easy to go select accessories and other resources. I think that kind of brings me to somewhat of a conclusion on e-commerce. I do want to be mindful of our time. We've exceeded by a minute or two. I apologize for that. So I will stop and hand it back to Peter, and start by asking if there's any more questions before I stop sharing my screen.
I think what we'll do, again, in interest of time, Etienne, is maybe we'll just take any questions offline and we'll answer them directly. So I'm going to take over the screen again, just put our contact information up here for folks. So everyone, if you want to chat about this further, about your specific situation, I know everyone's situation is going to be different. I mean, customer portal sometimes works great. Sometimes you need a full-on web store. If you have the need for your internal staff to access something, certainly let us know, and we'd be happy to have that conversation with you and just let you know what it's going to take to get there. It's not uncommon for someone to start with the customer portal as they build out a website, because a customer portal we can deploy very quickly. Just a matter of a couple of hours, we can have that thing up and running and ready to go for you, because again, we're not replicating any data. From a web store perspective, we do have to build the site. So that's a little bit of a longer, more involved process, a lot of back and forth with design and all that. So, that can take a couple to 3 months to build out that site for you. So if you want to get online very quickly and immediately, customer portal is a great way to do that. And it's fairly inexpensive to make that happen as well. So whatever your situation is, give us a call, reach out by email or by telephone or whatever method works for you. And we'll have that conversation, and we'll see what we can do to help you out. So thank you for your time. Do appreciate you spending some time with us. And as I say, the recording will be available shortly afterwards, probably by tomorrow sometime. We will post it on our YouTube channel and then make it available to you, I guess, a link by email as well. So thank you again. Appreciate your time and enjoy the rest of your day.